The 7 Towers of Satan are said to be 7 locations on the earth with connections to the negative spiritual evil realm. It's rumored that these are 7 places where fallen angels landed when they fell from heaven. It's claimed that these locations were searched after by the Third Reich to gain a supernatural level of control, and many people who study esoterics today claim that secret organizations are still in search for these locations for pursuing the same goal. The concept of these breakthrough points and connections to negative energy, or the so-called Towers of Satan, was made public by the French philosopher René Guénon. René Guénon was born in 1986 into a Roman Catholic family, but in his early 20s he started to become interested in mysticism and esoterics and left the Catholic Church and joined the Gnostic Church of France. Later in his life he converted to Islam and began to specialize in the field of Eastern metaphysics, mainly in southern Eurasia. At the age of 44 he moved to Egypt, and it's said that he married a woman who was from the family line of the Prophet Muhammad. Guénon was in search of the primordial, or the first ever religious tradition, and he believed that mankind had distorted, covered up, and changed the historical process and the understanding of religions of his day. While in Egypt, Guénon became heavily influenced and interested in Sufism, an esoteric and mystic Muslim belief system. While studying Eastern mysticism and esoteric beliefs in the Middle East, is when René Guénon came across the information of the 7 Towers of Satan. Here's a quote that Guénon wrote about the whereabouts of these metaphysical locations. They are located in the form of an arc encircling Europe at a certain distance. One part of it is located in the Niger region, which was already said that in ancient Egyptians that the most terrible sorcerers came from there. The second in Sudan, in a mountainous region inhabited by lycanthropes, or werewolves, in the amount of about 20,000 people. Quote, I knew eyewitnesses of this phenomenon. The third and fourth are in Asia Minor, one in Syria, the other in Mesopotamia, fifth in Turkestan, and the last 2 should be located even further north, closer to the Urals or in the western part of Siberia, but I must admit that so far I have not been able to find out their exact geographical location. So let's look at the claimed locations that Guénon said the 7 Towers of Satan are. The first 2 are in Niger and Sudan. Sudan is said to be the location of one of the oldest civilizations, the Meroe. It's said that these inhabitants are related to the Egyptians, and that they lived close to the Upper Nile and had access to the Red Sea and were skilled in navigation. The 3rd Tower of Satan is in Syria. Syria is the land of the ancient Phoenicians, who were a mysterious group of seafaring people who had colonies all throughout the Mediterranean and who were known to have sailed around Africa. There's also unverified claims that they traveled much further. The 4th tower is in Mesopotamia, in Sumer, in present-day Iraq. The Sumerians and the Assyrians have a long history of connections to the supernatural. This is the location where the Tower of Babel was built, the Sumerian legend of the giant of Gilgamesh, as well as their own ancient traditions of sky people who came down from the stars to the earth. The 5th Tower of Satan is in Turkestan, so still located within the Middle East, all within this region where all the supernatural events were taking place in Earth's ancient past, documented in the Bible, as well as in their local traditions. And the 6th and the 7th Tower of Satan, according to Guénon, are located, quote, closer to the Urals or in the western part of Siberia, which is pretty much to the right of directly in the middle of Russia. An interesting point here is that the Gog and Magog war that will take place in the very last days are said to be a huge army that comes from the north. Many people believe that to be Russia. That's all the information that we have on the 7 Towers of Satan, but there's a couple other things that are similar to that I want to point out. This idea of spiritual locations reminded me a lot of ley lines, which was an idea that developed in the 20th century in Europe, claiming that the ancient megalithic structures and prehistoric sites and all these different sites were all connected by lines. When it originated, it started by just saying that these were just locations that were connected for religious lights or walking one to another, but as the theory grew, people started to look at all the locations on the earth to connect them along lines as well, civilizations that had no contact with each other, with some people claiming that there's a spiritual type of connection like earth energies or vortexes or things along these lines, New Age spirituality type of beliefs. One strange phenomena in relation to this is the 6,666 kilometer mystery. And what this is the distance between various monuments From Kailash to the North Pole, from Kailash to Stonehenge, from the Egyptian pyramids to the North Pole, from Stonehenge to the Devil's Tower, from Stonehenge to the Bermuda Triangle, from the Bermuda Triangle to Easter Island, and from Easter Island to Tazamal. All these locations are 6,666 kilometers apart. Now, many of these things could just be myth, could be urban legends, could be things that people have thought up, but we do know that Earth's ancient past was surrounded in supernatural events. And we know that in the last days, these same large supernatural events will be taking place once again. Something in relation to locations on the earth and things along these lines that made me think was the high places mentioned in the Bible. All throughout the Old Testament, there was different locations and different places mentioned that God brought up called high places. And these were places that the people of the region who were serving false gods and false ways would go up to do sacrifices and perform religious ceremonies. In Jeremiah 32:35 it says, "And they built the high places of Baal which are in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to cause their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire to Moloch, which I did not command them, nor did it come into my mind that they should do this abomination to cause Judah to sin." This is one of many verses mentioning high places in the Old Testament. But worth pointing out is that there was also high places that Israel was using to actually serve God, or that God called his people to. In some instances, some of these locations were taken over from either the people of the land and turned over to serve God in, or it was a place where people were serving God, and then the people of the land, when they won in war, they would take the location over and then start serving false gods there. But in 1 Samuel 7:16 it says, "He went from year to year on a circuit to Bethel, Gilgal, Mizpah, and judged Israel in all those places." And these were known as high places. And why does this stuff matter? Well, Earth's ancient past was absolutely filled with supernatural events taking place. And we know in the future, in end times prophecy, supernatural events on a mass worldwide scale will be happening again. So it's a good thing to be aware that these things are real. These aren't just made up things, but they're absolutely real. They happened in the past, and things are going to be happening again on a supernatural scale. So people should be aware that these things exist. Jesus said in Matthew 24:24, "For false Christs and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect." In 2 Thessalonians 2:9-10, it says, "The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth that they might be saved." So we know absolutely that Earth's ancient past had supernatural events taking place. And while supernatural events even take place to this very day, in the future, it will be on the increase. So people should be aware that these things are absolutely real, and they should not be surprised or caught off guard when these things take place in the future. Now, whether these 7 towers of Satan actually exist, well, that could just be a myth. This could just be made up. We don't know for sure. But this stuff is interesting at the very least, and also it's a way to get people interested in the supernatural realm and in supernatural stuff, and to look at the Bible because it holds the keys to all this. I mean, actually a large majority of people are interested in the supernatural realm and these ideas. That's why the New Age movement and New Age spirituality is like flourishing and growing so much these days. So that's something that I like to do, is to look at this stuff, to show it in ways to where it can be tied back to the Bible, because the Bible holds the key to all supernatural, to everything, to Earth's ancient past and everything in the future and all these supernatural events. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do these locations actually exist? Are there supernatural locations in the earth, whether good or bad? What do you make of it? Trust in the Lord Jesus, follow him, read the Bible, and get just enveloped in that, because that's where the true connection to real supernatural power and just the supernatural truth of the world truly is. Thanks for watching, and God bless.